last time we checked in on the Rocket V8, Nick and Vasily were just getting started.
We're starting off here with a basic 350 Oldsmobile motor that belongs to a 1970 Rallye, and we're hoping to get 400 horsepower out of this thing.
It's a long way from the factory 310, but Nick's client has brought him some nice forged internal parts to help bridge the gap.
So we're gonna aim for 400, hopefully we get it.
And today they're gonna get this golden block one step closer to the dyno room.
On many engines, we zero deck the block for performance. In this case, we had to do it because our customer's looking for 400 horsepower out of this little 350 Oldsmobile. So we bought new pistons and we decked the block and they brought it back down to zero like you see here. Before it was 24 thou below the deck. So we decked the block 24 thou to bring it top dead center, exactly even for maximum power. Alright, Vasily, bring the head over. Let's put it on. There you go. It's nothing like aluminum heads, eh? They're feather-like compared to cast iron.
Yeah.
Alright, let's put on the head bolts and torque them down. I guess by next week we'll have this engine on the dynamometer, call the customer in, and see how we go with it. I just hope we get a 400 horsepower on this motor. We didn't do too much to it. All we did was port out the heads lightly, deck the block, put a little cam in it, and that's about it. We're gonna port it out to flow just a little bit over 200 CFMs at 500 left. And the cam we chose also is 500 left. So we put a small duration on it, not too much, because once you put a long duration on a camshaft, you lose vacuum. And if we lose vacuum, the poor customer's not gonna have any power brakes. We've got the timing chain in place, we've got the water pump in place, and after we install the valve train and the cylinder heads and intake manifold, we're gonna start putting on the oil pan. And then after that, it's off to the dynamometer.
So we took down the cylinder head that we started down at 60 and we finalized it with the 80 foot-pounds of torque like the Oldsmobile specifications say.
Okay, Vasily, put in the valve train. Lifters, push rods, rockers, rocker studs, and let's get going.
The Oldsmobile Rallye 350 was built in Lansing, Michigan, and made its debut at the 1970 Chicago Car Show. The option package included black wall tires, a custom sport steering wheel and mirrors, dual exhaust, a fiberglass hood, a rear spoiler, and the L74 350 V8 engine.
Pick the best ones and put them in. This is a very simple valve train. Since we're running hydraulic lifters and the original lockers are not adjustable, we're going to put them in just the way they came from the factory. Looks like everything's good. No interference with anything, Vasily? It's a very simple valve train, so it looks pretty good. Okay. Alright, now start setting up the intake manifold.
Yeah.
Alright. This is what they did in the old days, General Motors, when they had a steel head gasket or intake manifold gasket. They used a shellac like this around every port to make sure they had a good seal on their surface. In a lot of cases today, you got a paper thick gasket. In that case, you don't need shellac. So what we're doing here is the old method General Motors used. You don't see this very much today. Back in 1976, when I used to work at a GM dealer, When we had to use the steel head gasket on a cylinder head, I had to use shellac to make the seal before I put the cylinder head on. So I'm using the same method here. All right, so we got our shellac, we got our silicone in the corners, we got our end seals, and now we're ready to put on the intake manifold. As we decked the block and shaved the heads, we brought the cylinder heads much closer together. As we brought them down, this is what happens. So now that we didn't cut the intake or the intake manifold at all, it doesn't line up.
It's only the tiniest bit off. Nick doesn't think he'll need to reshape the manifold. All that's required is a little elbow grease to help it settle into place.
Okay, go for it. You know what it also is? You also have to bring down the intake to compress it on the rubbers. Well, I can't wait to see this more on a dynamometer. So does my customer. He keeps calling me, says, Nick, when you gonna have this engine on the dyno? Very soon. Well, everything takes time, you know, machine work, assembly, waiting for parts.
But now this classic Olds is almost back together. Nick's confident he can get it to make the big power his customer is after, as long as the intake doesn't hold them back.
Well, we've got an Oldsmobile Performer 350. We have to stick to a low intake manifold. Why? Because he's got a ram air system under the hood. So if we put anything higher, forget our cold air package from the ram air hood, and it's all discarded. So in this case, we want to keep it as original, make the ram air work, so we keep a low profile intake manifold like we've got here. We're almost complete with our Rocket 350 Oldsmobile engine. We got our pistons in, crank, cylinder heads assembled, put on, intake manifold, and sometime soon we're gonna get to put it on the dynamometer and see what horsepower we can get out of this thing. We're gonna get a nice Rochester carburetor. We're gonna jet it for the right air fuel ratio. We're gonna get a nice set of headers for it, and then we're gonna start up and rev it up and see where we get.